usted sabe, usted no es el presidente legítimo. Entonces, ¿cómo le llamo? Para ellos, usted es un dictador.
All right. Okay.
All right,
That's
Jorge
pretty
Ramos.
funny. Jorge, yeah, that's the beginning, the obnoxious Jorge Ramos beginning of one of the most insane interviews I've ever seen. And it's insane because of the circumstance of the interview. This interview just came out, and it was supposedly leaked through really wild circumstances that I actually don't totally accept. But it took place when we were in Venezuela in February. And I think you all stayed behind, and I left, and I happened to be on the flight with Jorge Ramos, one of the most annoying people in media, and I saw him as I entered the flight, and he's sitting in the first seat in the first row of first class because he wanted to bolt out of that flight to his press conference in Miami because he had just had this very triumphant moment where he claimed that because he told Nicolas Maduro he was a dictator, that Maduro stormed off and that Maduro's thugs took all of his footage. And, you know, when you're flying American Airlines from, Caracas to Miami, it's like the, upper class, upper crust of Venezuela's opposition in a tube in the sky. And so Jorge Ramos was like,
all together.
And I was sitting right next to his producers, and I was talking to his producers about it, and they're like, they took our cell phones, they took everything, and people were looking at me, and they were all trying to like lobby me as I was getting off the flight going through customs, and they were like, you should see how horrible it is in this dictatorship. And anyway, so I get out of the flight, and I'm wearing my like rucksack, and I have my phone, and Jorge Ramos is doing his interview, and I bust.
Right when he walks out of the plane. It's like people were sitting in the airport waiting
for him, and they cheered for him. Yay, Jorge! They don't really like him anymore in Mexico because they realize what an annoying, performative, like shrieking chihuahua he is. He's like the Mexican Mehdi Hassan. But anyway, and Too inside, no. Come on. Anyway. So I come out and I go right up there and I start speaking English to him, and he hears his master's voice, and he's like, excuse me. And he tells all of the Latino journalists, sorry, I have some questions in English here. He actually says it, and he turns to me.
Sir.
And I say, will you ask Marco Rubio about his tweet of juxtaposing
threatening to assassinate
Maduro, juxtaposing him with Gaddafi being killed, and
who was a bayonet was inserted into his anus by NATO-backed Salafi jihadist rebels,
and then shot in the head,
sodomized.
Yes, and this is the result that they all wanted. And so, anyway, the point is that as Ramos looks at me with like a deer in the headlights, like with eyes full of fear, the ultimate ambush artist. He tells me proudly, well, a lot of people in America, in the U.S., liked what we were doing down there in Venezuela. Mike Pence liked what we were doing down there, and Marco Rubio liked what we were doing down there.
Mr. Ramos,
let me finish a couple of questions in English.
Any plans to confront Marco Rubio about his threat to kill Nicolas Maduro by posting pictures of him and Gaddafi? Any plans to confront Marco Rubio about his threats of military invasion, or to confront Donald Trump about the sanctions on Venezuela?
What I can tell you is that many people here in the United States supporting what we were doing, and that Marco Rubio, Vice President Pence, and many others were supporting what we were doing over there.
So you were acting on their behalf and you're accepting their support. No
Absolutely
plans to
not.
confront Marco Rubio on calling for the murder of Nicolas Maduro.
I have been. It's interesting what you're saying, because I have been a journalist for more than 30 years, an independent journalist, and everybody who knows me knows what happened with Donald Trump. Do you remember what happened with Donald Trump?
Yes, the questions were great. If I had done that at a press conference, though, I'd probably be speaking out of turn.
So it is very clear that I had
no plans to confront Marco Rubio about calling for killing Nicolas Maduro, an elected leader.
I'll do all the questions that need to be made.
Will you ask Marco Rubio why he called for the murder of Nicolas Maduro? Yes or no?
No, I'll ask all the politicians the tough questions. I have demonstrated in the past that I asked the tough questions to President Trump. I've demonstrated that I've asked the tough questions to Nicolas Maduro, and I keep on asking to anyone
including
The
Marco
quest-
Rubio, about calling for the killing
I'll
of Nicolas
I'll ask
Maduro.
anyone the tough questions to anyone.
So you will do so.
What questions?
It was late February when all of this happened, and we'd been in Venezuela, the three of us and our colleague Aaron Mate, for
About a month.
2.5 weeks
Oh, at the
maybe.
time,
We
yeah,
stayed
yeah.
longer. So at the time Max left, and he had this opportunity to confront Jorge Ramos and get him to admit that he was proud of what he did because Mike Pence was happy with what he did, which is a very strange comment for a journalist to make, especially when you consider the fact that we, as I mentioned, were in Venezuela at that time. And when the news broke that the Maduro government had allegedly seized Jorge Ramos's interview
First of all, no one cared.
Yeah,
When
no
we were
one
in Caracas, and I didn't hear anyone talking about it. No one, even the opposition, didn't really care. This was entirely a phenomenon for American English language audiences.
And when it happened, and they claimed that they seized the footage and that Maduro had sat down for an interview with Ramos, for me, the most offensive part of it was that Maduro actually sat down with Ramos, because at the time, I mean, we were getting all these accusations as being like totally part of like a government propaganda operation, and yet we weren't. No,
Exactly.
we
didn't
weren't
get
guaranteed
an
any
interview.
access. We didn't get
Yeah.
any access to Maduro.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, what did we do wrong? Like, I wish that we had been able to sit down with him. Why did he let Jorge Ramos in? And then after watching this interview, Max and I have seen it already. Ben, you haven't. After watching this interview, I understood why. I was upset and I was confused, and other people I spoke to were confused. People across the board, hardcore Chavistas and members of the media in the United States, were confused. Why, of all organizations, did Maduro sit down with Jorge Ramos and Univision? Now that I've seen the interview months after it was recorded, which, I mean, just doesn't fly at any other news network that I could think of, and we can get more into that afterwards, I understand why. I think it was because, and you can see once you watch it, the president Maduro was very prepared for the talking points he knew Ramos was going to hurl at him. And he systematically destroyed Jorge Ramos. He was prepared to, and in the mind of the Venezuelan president at that time, it was a very crucial moment for him to have the opportunity to speak to the Spanish-speaking world outside of Venezuela and a mainstream audience. He was ready to do it. He had the answers for Jorge Ramos.
And it made Ramos look so bad that they just didn't publish it, and instead made this fake idea.
I don't know why they. I mean, I assume they were telling the truth, and you can see at the end Maduro storms off, and there may have been reasons.
17 minutes into the interview.
But yeah, 17 minutes, and Ramos made it seem like he stormed off right away. But the point is,
Well, Ramos makes it seem specifically like he stormed off when Ramos called him a dictator.
So let's
But
start-
as you
Wait,
just saw,
but let me make
he
this
begins
point.
the interview
and we're
calling
gonna,
him a dictator.
So let me just segue into the interview. If, Maduro and his goons had wanted to destroy this interview and the footage because it was so embarrassing for them, they could have done that. But months later, what is it, 4 months later, it's seeped out. And it actually makes Maduro look like kind of a boss, and it shows the complete unprofessionalism of Jorge Ramos and what a tool he is. And it really is suspect. It's highly suspect. And so the reason we wanted to have this conversation, for those of you all watching, is that you probably haven't been told about this interview because Jorge Ramos, he hasn't been doing like a victory lap since it's been out. It kind of leaked out and that was it. So watch it. Just watch what happens. Let's just roll into it, and we'll be commenting throughout it.
We'll laugh and comment.
But, basically none of the footage was destroyed, but Jorge Ramos was. So
Here we go.
¿Tú reconoces qué es esto?
Claro, por supuesto,
La Constitución. Me tienes que llamar como dice la Constitución. Yo me llamo Nicolás. Un solo nombre tengo. Nicolás Maduro Moro. Soy un obrero. Nombre sencillo.
And we need to keep in mind he's telling the truth that Maduro was a bus driver, and
So this is why, and Ramos shows so much contempt for him, and that's why, and he thinks that he's talking to a stupid man, but just watch as he kind of gets...
Popular. He
Check.
sido electo y reelecto presidente. Así que bueno, ya te corresponde a ti como me quieras llamar.
Pero-
Pero te estoy recibiendo en el Palacio Presidencial de Miraflores,
Usted sabe que
donde
se encuentra-
legítimamente
He's already starting to
llegué
cut him
por el
off,
voto
which is
popular.
just totally
Todo lo que
obnoxious.
hemos tenido, Jorge, todo ha sido por el voto popular. Somos una fuerza, somos de verdad. Quizás en las televisoras a las que tú trabajas nos presenten como una minoría acorralada, pero somos una fuerza de verdad en la profundidad del pueblo venezolano.
Pretty good
52
answer.
países no lo consideran a usted el presidente.
All right.
Oh,
well,
52
before-
countries,
52.
you know, the-
By the way, how many countries are there in the world? 195.
You know, Africa, the Caribbean countries,
Don't
they don't
matter.
exist. It's the 50.
China doesn't matter. The largest country in the world. India, the second largest country, doesn't matter.
Okay, but the 52 countries. Okay, go on.
Well, no, but also what he said, you know, we can talk more after this interview about what we saw in Venezuela, but what he's saying is true. No one's pretending like every single person in Venezuela supports Maduro. In fact, there is a vibrant opposition, and there still is a capitalist class in Venezuela that actually did not have its wealth taken from it. And what he's saying, though, is true that when we were in Venezuela, I saw a lot of people, including poor working class people, black Venezuelans, women, who strongly support Maduro. We went out to these markets and went out to other parts, other barrios, and we were interviewing people. And then some random civilians would just walk up to us and say, the media is lying. Tell them that we love our president. And these are people who we weren't even interviewing them. They just came up to us, and they could tell that we were, you know, gringo journalists. So what he's saying is true. I mean, regardless of what you want to think, regardless of what Ramos wants to think, it's true.
Legítimo.
Me estás hablando del país primero, ¿cómo me vas a llamar? ¿Eh? Ahora,
La oposición tampoco lo considera presidente legítimo, lo considera
His
un
answer is
usurpador.
basically,
Un
I've
guay-
won democratic elections,
Presidente
so
interino
base
le
your
llama
decision
usted
on
que
what
es
to
un
call me on that.
And you can see, okay, throughout the interview, Ramos is the spokesman for the opposition.
More than that, I mean, by extension, he's a spokesperson for the U.S. government.
I mean, you can see, and he doesn't let Maduro speak. I mean, it's just very clear that's what he's doing.
Usurpador.
déjame decirte que ellos tienen un problema de identidad grave, porque ellos solo reconocen electoralmente los resultados cuando hay victorias a favor de ellos. De 25 elecciones que se han hecho en el país, 23 las hemos ganado nosotros con voto, a pulso, trabajando, con fuerza popular. Y por lo general ellos intentan
Elections affirmed by the
desconocer.
Carter Center.
Abril 2013, cuando el comandante Chávez partió de esta vida, yo quedé como presidente encargado, era vicepresidente de la República.
Pero él lo escoge usted, por dedazo.
He handpicked you.
Por dedo.
All right,
Claro.
let's pause it right there. What president does not handpick his vice president?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we don't get to vote for the vice president in the U.S.
Yeah, and have you ever heard of this concept of past presidents endorsing new candidates?
Right.
what?
But
Only
even just the
Venezuela does
idea,
that?
the whole purpose of the vice president is that you're the handpicked successor to the throne if something happens to the president.
Well, but also in a testament to the fact that Venezuela is still a democracy, Hugo Chavez died in 2013.
They
and
immediately had an election.
But he died right after he was reelected.
Mm-hmm.
They had a new election that Maduro won fair and square.
That would never happen in the United States.
No,
And the election took place within 30 days, which was a testament to the central election.
That
and
would
abiding by the
never happen.
Constitution, which is what the Constitution said.
It mandates
which,
that it takes place in 30 days.
which is what Juan Guaido, when Pence called him and told him to self-declare after weeks of planning, the whole idea was, oh, well, you are declaring yourself president in 30 days, there will be elections. Of course, there never were elections because there wasn't a plan. I mean,
Well, as Elliot Abrams said, the rules are different for Juan Guaido.
exactly.
¿no?
No hay una elección, su partido lo escogía a usted.
Él da una orden como comandante y las fuerzas políticas hacen su congreso, todas las fuerzas políticas, más de 14 partidos del Gran Pueblo Patriótico,
Including opposition
y
parties.
ratifican la decisión del comandante. Yo voy a las elecciones, 14 de abril del año 2013, cuando él se va. Y esas elecciones se realizaron con observación internacional, con participación de todos. Recuerdo que en mi toma de posesión asistieron todos los presidentes de UNASUR, como una manera de
La
reconocimiento.
oposición dice que fue un fraude las del 2013. Enrique Capriles no.
All right. So first of all, the idea that there was fraud in 2013 is not agreed by international organizations. The 2018 election is a more complex case.
Yeah,
We'll
it just
get
said
to that.
Capriles
But-
lost narrowly, and so he decided to challenge it, and then he accepted the results.
And they had a
ultimately.
recount, and he accepted that he lost fair and square. Another point in here, he mentioned UNASUR, which has been basically destroyed in large part thanks to Ecuador, and Ecuador has turned from Correa, the previous left-wing president. So that's a lot of details, but the point is, he's right. that there were international observers. And in the 2018 election, as we'll discuss, the Venezuelan government again invited international observers, including the United Nations and the European Union, and they rejected it in the 2018 election. So it's not for lack of want on the part of the Venezuelan government.
And CARICOM and the African Union did observe the election.
That was
The 2018.
election.
Yeah.
So the 2013 election is not disputed by anyone serious, by no international bodies. All right, let's keep going.
reconoció esa elección, lo impugnó.
Nunca aportó un elemento, un papel de alguna irregularidad en una mesa electoral. Al contrario,
Fueron muchos, señor Maduro, perdón. Fueron muchas las irregularidades. Hubo
pasa
intimidación
que
en
tú
las
traes
mesas.
una
en las
posición
mesas.
Doesn't
tomada.
cite
Jorge.
any.
Doesn't
Tiene que
name
ser un poco más.
He also doesn't mention the extreme violence of the opposition, which is trying to prevent people from voting. But anyway,
We'll get into that.
equilibrado, porque tenemos que hacer una entrevista.
yeah, right here, Maduro says you need to be more balanced. He's not even making a pretense. He's just
the beginning of many attacks Maduro successfully launches against Jorge Ramos to call out his bias and essentially highlights him as an activist of the opposition. I mean, watch this interview and tell me that Ramos isn't something other than that.
Con equilibrio. Tiene que ser un diálogo.
Yo
La
le voy a dar
entrevista.
la información que yo
Permíteme
tengo.
hablar.
Y usted me puede dar toda
No,
la
no es la
información.
información, es la posición que tú tienes. Tú tienes una posición contra la revolución bolivariana. Yo la respeto. Tú eres un opositor de derecha que vive en Estados Unidos.
all right. Imagine if every person interviewed just said that. They just openly said you are a right-wing opponent living in the United States,
You're a counter-revolutionary.
in Florida specifically.
Well, every other Latin American leader in the Lima group will be like, yes, Jorge, I'm applying to be Donald Trump's apprentice.
Yo soy
Muy,
solo un
muy
periodista.
antirrevolucionario.
Soy
No
un
eres solo periodista, Jorge.
que hace preguntas.
Está bien. Ojalá fuera así. Por eso te digo, trata de ser un poco más equilibrado. No asumas como posiciones ya firmes, juradas, las mentiras de la oposición venezolana. De Venezuela ha habido una historia que todo el mundo conoce. Ellos desconocieron las elecciones del 2013.
Exacto.
Y han desconocido todas las elecciones, salvo la que ganaron en el 2015. En el 2015, en diciembre, se hicieron las elecciones al Parlamento. Y las ganó
Right. I
ampliamente
mean,
la
that's a
oposición.
good point. I mean, what he's talking about the National Assembly, where they won after, amidst Guarimbas destabilizing the country and basically helping to tank the economy as oil prices went down. They win the National Assembly, and then they say, we won, and they legitimize the democratic systems that they always try to delegitimize through boycott when they know they're going to lose. So he's making that point.
Well, and the point he made that in the past, since Chavez was first elected in 1998, the PSUV, the Socialist Party, and Chavista forces before that have won 23 of 25 elections. The other election that they don't dispute is that they tried to push through another constitution, and the constitutional referendum lost. And then the government said, "Okay, we lost it," and the opposition never contested that because they don't contest elections that they win, of course. Right.
Nosotros reconocimos de manera inmediata, con el mismo sistema electoral, con la misma institución electoral, con los mismos observadores nacionales e internacionales. Sencillamente la oposición no tiene un proyecto democrático para el país. La oposición solo quiere barrer a la revolución.
En 2018 tampoco reconocieron esa elección. Fue una elección en la que ellos aseguran que usted adelantó las elecciones de forma ilegítima.
Whoa. That is just blatantly false. And this is, again, Jorge Ramos is, not only is he saying falsehoods, he's actually making up falsehoods that the opposition doesn't even claim. They don't say that. Where did the 2018 election date come from? Actually,
From the opposition.
yeah, well, it came specifically because Maduro won fair and square the 2013 election, and he voluntarily agreed to push back his election by a year because they came to an agreement with the opposition after the 2017 Guarimbas.
They came to an agreement during talks in the Dominican Republic, which the day they were supposed to sign the official papers solidifying the discussions, Voluntad Popular and other members of the opposition
extreme
party
right-wing.
walked out without any explanation. They had already agreed to sign the agreement, or they'd already promised to sign the agreement. And then the only opposition figure who follows through on that agreement and participates in that election, Henri Falcón, is actually threatened with sanctions by the United States for participating in the election because their whole strategy is to delegitimize the democratic system in Venezuela.
So basically, what probably happened, it's still not entirely clear, but people we spoke to in Venezuela think, and because of the sanctions likely suggest, that at the Dominican Republic negotiations between the Maduro government and the opposition, the Trump administration, specifically Mike Pompeo, told the main far-right opposition parties like Voluntad Popular, told them to not sign the
boycott.
agreement and to boycott the election, and then they were threatened.
Which is what all these minor parties who can't win and are divided do in every country where the U.S. wants regime change. Like in Haiti, they had the
can't
Group
win
of 184, and the whole thing was boycott, 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 and then say it's not democratic.
It's a Gene Sharp tactic. You can't win because you don't have mainstream support. So you boycott the election and say it's illegitimate because only they participated, but that's because you voluntarily refused to participate.
Absolutely.
Inhabilita candidatos que le podían ganar a usted, Enrique Capriles o Leopoldo López. No permite observación internacional.
That's false.
Consejo Nacional
False.
Electoral.
As I just mentioned, we met with actually the Electoral Council, and we actually had a very difficult interview. We asked them tough questions, and one of the points that we raised is why weren't there international observers in 2018? There were some, but why wasn't the United Nations and the EU there? And as I said, we have letters showing that they invited the EU and the UN to observe the elections, but they refused to participate because they were controversial.
Right, and 2 weeks before the election, Canada and the U.S. said they were not legitimate. The results were not legitimate 2 weeks before. I mean, imagine if any country did that with the U.S.
Yeah, and then just to repeat what I mentioned earlier, which is that CARICOM and the African Union did send observers to Venezuela during that election and didn't find any reasonable claims of electoral fraud, and other
But
journalists.
Anya, they're not part of the 52 countries that
True,
matter.
true.
There are only 52 countries.
Africa, the Caribbean, Asia, these places don't exist in the minds of economist readers.
The 52 countries in the world, the only ones that exist.
Usted controla, cuenta los votos. Es como ser un partido de fútbol sin contrincante, sin árbitro. Y
It's like a soccer game where the other team voluntarily doesn't show up.
luego usted pone el marcador.
Vuelves a caer en el error de no ser periodista, sino ser militante de la oposición. Te contesto.
Son los datos.
Te contesto. No son tus datos, no son los datos. Te contesto porque está bien, acepto tu rol de militante de la oposición venezolana. No hay ningún problema.
Mi rol es de
Ahora,
periodista.
no es periodista, Jorge, tú lo sabes. Ahora, te contesto en el rol que tú asumes de militante
Also,
de la oposición
a minor
venezolana,
thing
de
for
la extrema-
non-Spanish speakers. So Jorge Ramos is referring to Maduro with usted, but Maduro is referring to him as tú. He's saying, no, tú no eres periodista.
He's just out the gate. He's treating him with like the contempt he deserves.
Though to be fair, in Venezuela, I see they don't use usted that much.
Yeah, it's not as common.
And-
I think it's like that. That's like
But Chavez did an interview in, I think, 2003 with Jorge Ramos, and he knew his reputation as just this U.S. punk, and he treated him as such as well. So it's a long tradition in Bolivarian politics.
para el público que tú sirves.
Tiene que escuchar el otro punto de vista también.
Yo lo escucho siempre, pero tú no estás como periodista aquí. Yo te asumo como presidente de la oposición y estamos en un debate. Claro, tú eres extranjero.
Yo soy un periodista.
Tú eres extranjero. Sirve. He aceptado tu entrevista porque sabía que iba a ser así para responder a mucha gente, venezolanos que viven en los Estados Unidos. y que se niegan a
That's exactly the
escucharnos.
theory I laid out. Maduro knew this would be his opportunity to speak with the Spanish language speaking world beyond Venezuela, and he was actually prepared to take on Jorge Ramos. And Jorge Ramos, unfortunately, wasn't up to the task.
Yeah, actually, you'll see later on, Maduro makes a lot of references to the Venezuelan diaspora and to the like lamentable politics they've taken on.
Para que vean la realidad. Nosotros somos
Tienen
de
dudas
verdad.
legítimas de
Nosotros, no,
quién
está
es
bien.
usted y del puesto que usted supuestamente se merece, que ellos creen que no se lo merece.
Bueno, está bien, ellos viven en los Estados Unidos. Lamentablemente se ha levantado una ola dentro de este grupo de venezolanos que viven en los Estados Unidos, sobre todo los sectores politizados, de llamar a una invasión de Venezuela. Yo quiero decirlo que esa es una equivocación, que ese es un inmenso error. Venezuela tiene que resolver nuestros asuntos como venezolanos en paz, en diálogo. Tenemos que buscar los caminos para atender los problemas económicos, sociales, políticos, nacionales que tenemos los venezolanos. No es una invasión, no es un tutelaje, no es la intervención de un gobierno nefasto como el de Donald Trump. Cuando acá, pregunto, Jorge, Donald Trump se le inspiró un amor especial por América Latina. ¿Cuándo acá se le abrió el corazón para amar a los venezolanos y querer darnos ayuda humanitaria, querer arreglar este país?
Esto no
Todo es
tiene
una
que ver-
farsa,
pero
todo es una farsa,
No
tiene
Jorge.
esto que ver con los Estados
That
Unidos.
was,
tiene
you
que
know,
ver
his
con-
message to the Venezuelan diaspora. And, you know, if they got what they wanted, if Carlos Vecchio and his crew got what they wanted, we would go back to that as a very prophetic warning. But this is why he did the interview, as Anya said.
And then Ramos says that this has nothing to do with the U.S. It has everything to do with the U.S. The only reason we know about Juan Guaido is because of the U.S.
Jorge Ramos has everything to do with the U.S. If it wasn't for the U.S., Jorge Ramos would be on a beach in Cancun with a metal detector looking for loose change because he's totally been discredited in Mexico.
And I'll get more into this later, but he's a completely untalented interviewer.
Talentless, just following a script. He's been propped up here because he had one little, you know, popping out of a like a cuckoo clock, popping out of a box in a press conference with Trump when the easiest thing to do was to get up and yell at Trump. And he was talking out of turn. And if I had done that at any press conference anywhere, I would have been thrown out. So Jorge Ramos even sucks in taking on Trump.
millones de venezolanos, señor Maduro, que no lo reconocen a usted como presidente legítimo. Primero, por lo que ellos
How many
consideran un
millions of
fraude,
Americans don't recognize Trump as a
y
legitimate president? That doesn't mean he wasn't
por los
elected.
asesinatos
Pelosi
que
called for him
a
to be
usted
jailed.
le están achacando.
Bueno,
The
sigue
assassin-
The assassinations.
Yeah, name like who is? I mean,
Who is
político
assassinated?
conductor. Está bien, te contesto.
O sea,
A los
¿cómo
venezolanos
pierde
que
alguien
viven en
legitimidad?
Venezuela, a los
Pierde
ve-
legitimidad por fraude,
he won't even let him answer the
He
question.
disputed it.
a los,
por
ve-
asesinatos.
a los
Y dos lo
venezolanos.
culpan por-
Bueno, es muy grave que tú me acuses a mí de
Es que
asesinato.
no soy yo.
Ahí
¿Usted
están
se
los
acuerda
juicios.
de,
Okay, Anya,
del pollo?
who is Hugo Carvajal?
Hugo Carvajal is the former head of, or the director of Venezuela's national intelligence. He served under Chavez, but then gave public statements saying he was willing to testify in the United States against members of the ministers and individuals serving in the. Well, that's what I was gonna get to, but he said he would testify against members of the government in exchange for immunity from sanctions. And so he does that and he moves to the United States, and then shortly afterwards the US sanctions specifically Tariq al-Assami, a minister in the government who now works as the industries minister. And now, fast forward several years later, that testimony has been leaked to the New York Times, where they've run these pieces claiming that al-Assami is tied to Hezbollah because he has an Arab-sounding name and happens to be, I think, Iraqi.
Not just
and
tied. They
Syrian.
say he's the key part of a major conspiracy where Hezbollah is training in Latin America and also
Yeah.
not even just training but smuggling drugs.
Yeah.
And then it's all.
Yeah, they accuse him of being a drug dealer. They say part of the evidence is that when they went on a trip to Iran, a government trip to Iran, he stopped in Syria to visit his family and had members of Hezbollah on a government plane. But Hezbollah is a political party that represents a population in Lebanon. It shouldn't be a scandal for
and
them
that is
to be on a
elected
plane.
in the parliament.
Yeah, and then the key point here just to make is that Carvajal El Pollo, he only said any of this in exchange for immunity from U.S. sanctions, which he received, although now he's still being persecuted by the U.S. government.
Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, it's a long story. They arrested him in Spain.
Well, this is when you betray your
recently.
people and try to join the
Yes.
U.S. This is what they do to you.
Exactly. The case of Hugo Carvajal should send a message to all Venezuelan officials and for the U.S. to think that it didn't and act as though like Padrino Lopez or any of these officials were knowingly going along with the U.S. government is so absurd. They all see what happens to individuals who sell out to the United States, and the U.S. doesn't take care of its people. You know, they can hang you up to dry a day after they ring you out, and it seems like El Pollo is going to be fried.
Can you let Zelda in?
We're getting too deep into the weeds.
No. I think it's important when you talk about Hugo Carvajal. I mean, if you've been reading, this is Zelda, by the way. If you've been reading, no, we're not going to cut it. If you've been reading the New York Times, like you know, they had a huge spread on Hugo Carvajal. All the papers are relying on Carvajal as their one source on Maduro's dirty games. And what you explained was so important because people are never told, the context is never provided in those articles, that Carvajal is not even spilling the beans, but maybe singing like a canary, even beyond what is true, in order to get out from under sanctions and spending the rest of his life in prison because he was accused of drug trafficking. And now Maduro is actually going to refer to Carvajal in very unflattering terms because he knows what a corrupt bastard he was who was on the way out, even within the Maduro government. I mean, this is a guy they wanted out of there. So Carvajal, you know, is the fact that Ramos brings this up. I mean, this is so important because
So dishonest.
if you've been paying attention to Russiagate, if you've been paying attention to Syria, the way the U.S. covers anything, it relies so much on the CIA to shape the narrative. And it's the CIA and the FBI and the DEA that flipped Carvajal and that are now furnishing him groomed him and are furnishing him to the media, and Ramos is spouting the CIA narrative.
If we're even supposed to believe what Carvajal says about himself, it would mean that he personally, individually, was involved with the drug trade.
De Hugo Carvajal fue su jefe de inteligencia.
No, yo lo voté apenas llegué al gobierno.
Bueno, no estuvo.
Lo voté por
Aquí hay una
por su
fotografía de
mala conducta.
Bueno, no parece porque está abrazado en esta fotografía.
En el
con
momento
él.
que lo secuestraron en Aruba, hice todo para que lo soltaran por querer legar su secuestro en Aruba. Mira, aquí hay muchos
Kidnapped
temas.
by the
Si me
U.S. and
permite
the Drug Enforcement Agency.
responder a uno,
Hablemos de los muertos que le están achacando.
Now he
Él
suddenly
dice
changes the subject.
lo siguiente. Le dice a usted, has asesinado a cientos de jóvenes en las calles por reclamar
Yes,
los
Maduro
derechos que le
personally
robaste. Eso
did
sin
it.
contar con
Also, this narrative is so absurd.
This is about the Guarimbas.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. We'll continue for a second.
los fallecidos por la falta de medicinas y seguridad.
All right. Well, actually, I've got to stop. Every line he says, deaths to lack of medicine. As we've been talking about at the Gray Zone, a recent study that was co-authored by the leading economists Jeffrey Sachs and Mark Weisbrot showed that in just 2 years, 2017 and 2018, U.S. sanctions led to the preventable deaths of 40,000 Venezuelans,
excess
many
deaths.
because of lack of medicine. But Jorge Ramos is blaming the government.
Well, that's actually Carvajal's words that under basically duress. I mean, he's giving these words under duress. Let's keep it rolling.
Hugo Carvajal.
Hugo Carvajal
Los presidentes no
acusado,
matan a su gente.
entonces, de un día para otro, Hugo Carvajal acusado por ustedes de ser un torturador, de ser narcotraficante,
Yeah, exactly.
perseguido por la justicia estadounidense.
Exactly. They say all this about him and
Para
then
acusar
claim he's a reliable
al presidente
source.
obrero de esas barbaridades que él dice. Sencillamente en Venezuela hay un Estado de Derecho. Nadie puede acusar de manera indebida a nadie y nadie puede pretender acusarme a mí de delitos que jamás he cometido. Sencillamente.
Ha habido
Yo soy un
cientos de
hombre, mira,
muertos, ha habido
yo soy un
cientos de
hombre
muertos, señor
apegado.
Rivera.
Yo soy un hombre apegado a valores espirituales, a
Usted dice que
valores
es cristiano,
legales,
Usted dice que es cristiano.
profundo, practicante, diario,
¿Y los muertos
cristiano
cómo
de
los explica?
oración.
¿Cómo explica los muertos del 2014, del 2017, del
Okay, here we go.
2019?
Están los juicios. Del juicio del 2014, Leopoldo López está señalado de
All right, let's talk about those years specifically, are the years of the Guarimbas.
Keep it rolling because
propiciador
he
de
enables.
la
He's
violencia
talking about
y
Lopez.
responsable indirecto
Pero él no es
de los
responsable de todas las
muertos.
muertes, de las cientos
De
de
todas las
muertes.
muertes, dice tú, estás aceptando que es responsable de una parte
yo
de
no
las
estoy
muertes.
aceptando eso.
¿Tú quieres
Ah,
llevar el debate
Okay,
a algo?
okay, stop it there.
Of
Let's
course.
talk about Lopez. Okay, Leopoldo Lopez was sort of the face of the Popular Will Party of Juan Guaido, and they're the most radical wing of the Venezuelan opposition.
Closely linked to the US government.
They basically created by the U.S. government, which Anya can talk about, and they initiated what are known as Guarimbas. Do you want to explain what the Guarimbas were? This is what Jorge Ramos refers to without context, so viewers don't know what took place in those years, and the fact that many of those deaths were the result of Lopez and his forces killing people, including innocent people.
Burning people alive.
And it's
So-
something that, this would never be tolerated in the U.S.
It's very important the years that Jorge Ramos mentioned. Of course, he doesn't say what happened in those years. 2014 and 2017 are the years of what they call the Guarimbas, which is when the opposition, the extreme right-wing opposition, and many young like hoodlums who were apolitical but were paid by people. This is all very well documented. Some of them had admitted it. Just like these nihilistic youth.
We saw elements of this when we were there.
Just like gang violence, and they're just being paid by different operatives. And they just took over entire neighborhoods. They would erect large barricades and set cars and other things on fire in the middle of the road, and then control all of the traffic in and out in order to paralyze entire parts of Caracas and other cities. This is essentially, they're imposing a kind of violent siege on these areas to try to take over neighborhoods and then use those neighborhoods as bases of support. And during the Guarimbas, sure, there were people who were killed by the police. There were also a lot of security forces killed, and when we were there in 2019, there were also new Guarimba attacks, and we went to these
29.
and we went to these areas in working class barrios where there had been Guarimbas, and you can see bullet holes on both sides of the street, meaning that they were shooting at each other. There are a lot of guns in Venezuela, and the opposition is not peaceful, so they were shooting at these different the SWAT teams they have, which are like these supposedly the paramilitaries or the colectivos also as well. They're supposedly killing people.
There was one instance in, I think it was in 2014 in June, when Lopez gives a speech with Guaido by his side, and he said, "Let's go march to the Attorney General's office," and they burned the Attorney General's office down. I mean, Lopez was directly involved in violence, and that's why he was put under house arrest. He's now in the Spanish embassy. But the U.S., what they would do to someone doing that in the streets, it would be a lot
shoot
softer.
you immediately.
Yeah, I always liked to compare Lopez to Hillary Clinton and say, imagine if after she lost the 2016 election to Trump, she'd called upon the military and armed U.S. citizens to march on to Washington and demand that she was rightfully to take power.
And openly called on a foreign power to invade her country.
And was running a party openly funded or established with strong connection to the U.S. government. But that's a story for another time.
You mean to a foreign government?
With a foreign government.
Yeah. So the point is that the violence was on many sides of this.
And Maduro pushes back really hard here, so let's watch what he says.
Absolutamente controvertible, a un punto en donde trate de imponerme a mí un ritmo de entrevista que es totalmente negativa.
Yo le estoy haciendo las preguntas sobre los muertos en su país, que muchos dicen que por
Only
eso
one
usted
side, though.
no es legítimo. Si usted no fuera responsable de esas muertes, ¿quién controla la Policía Nacional? ¿Quién controla?
All right, how many people are killed by U.S. police every year? Over 1,000?
Okay,
Every U.S. president
Maduro,
is illegitimate.
Maduro does make that point.
Controla la Guardia Nacional.
Mira, aquí hay juicios debidos. Hay una comisión por la verdad y la justicia
He takes him a
que
while
ha
to get there.
funcionado, está funcionando.
He's
Y
defending
ha
his national
tomado el
institutions.
control
He
directo
really
de toda
wants
la
to
investigación.
defend
En los juicios de la
Venezuela as a
Comisión
democracy.
de la Verdad y Justicia se ha establecido
ultimately makes
caso
those
por
points.
caso del intento de golpe de Estado del año 2014, caso por caso del
And he said in
intento de golpe de
2014,
Estado de
this translation is not
120 días de callejera, donde contrataron bandas de delincuentes, de malandros, para atentar contra la propiedad pública, cosas que en los Estados Unidos jamás aceptarían, la
mayor
llamada
parte de los
guarimba.
asesinatos
Y esa
es-
Comisión de Justicia y Paz, bueno, ha
So
establecido...
And they're translating Guarimbas as barricades, which is what
yes,
they are.
and so in 2017 you actually had a terror attack on Caracas by helicopter, where the Ministry of Justice was bombed, the Supreme Court was bombed by a figure that Donald Trump honored by bringing his mother up on stage in Miami
Oscar
earlier this
Perez.
year. Oscar Perez. So a straight up terrorist was honored by Donald Trump.
Who was also whitewashed in the media, who called him the Venezuelan James Bond. And he was in these weird action movies that were like horrible
Like
B-movies.
B-list, yeah.
And they were like, look at the Venezuelan James Bond. He's this right-wing terrorist who's a Christian fundamentalist who posted these insane like Christian ISIS videos.
Yeah, so just imagine that the U.S. is bombed by helicopter by
Supreme Court.
by the Bundy family, and then Vladimir Putin gets up and honors the Bundy family like father and brings him up in Moscow. How Americans would be freaking out about that. That's exactly what happened here,
Caso por caso las responsabilidades. Buena parte de las responsabilidades, te puedo decir, están achacadas en factores de oposición.
La
En
mayor parte
Venezuela,
de los muertos es por su culpa, señor Maduro.
bueno, pero es tu posición
But
política.
say the numbers. I mean, it's our friends and colleagues, great journalists, Abby Martin and Mike Preisner, went to Venezuela and they did the actual numbers. They documented every single death with all of the names, and they showed that the violence was about even on both sides, the opposition and the government violence, which is what happens in war. they kill both sides.
Yeah.
This is a war.
Again, I mean, imagine if you put this in the U.S. context, what would happen if this took place in Washington, D.C.
Especializada contrarrevolucionaria que tiene.
Neomar
Sencilla.
Lander, 17
Ahora,
años, asesinado por bombas lacrimógenas. Paola Andreina, estudiante, asesinado con un disparo en la cabeza.
Another quick note, I know we keep stopping, but one of the things about Venezuela is there is a lot of gun violence. It's true, like other countries in Latin America. And part of the opposition propaganda is that while the Guarimbas were happening, there were deaths that were probably unrelated to the Guarimbas and the government.
Well, it was the
that
same.
were
In,
included.
it was the same in Nicaragua in 2018 that the human rights groups that were supported by the West would conflate traffic deaths and gun violence that were or murders that would just take place because of common crime with everything that took place during the protest period.
So everyone who dies within the times of the Guarimbas is blamed on the government.
And what I was also going to say is that you would never hear a reporter, particularly Jorge Ramos, sit down with the U.S. president and blame them personally for every single death or every single murder committed by the U.S. police force. They wouldn't be like, Barack Obama, what about Michael Brown, huh? Like, what about Freddie Gray? No, you never hear the president blamed for it's not like Maduro sat there and told the police to
And
kill
can you
all
imagine
these
an RT, a foreign journalist, an RT journalist sitting down with Obama and asking him these questions that
No.
way? Saying, what about Michael Brown? And just interrupting him anytime he
So,
tries to
so
speak.
Maduro actually
course
makes
not.
these points later on if we can get to them. But he
Byron
makes
David
very
Principal.
similar
es muy
points.
fácil
Por la Guardia
despachar
Nacional.
justicia, Jorge Ramos. Es tu justicia. Eres fiscal.
¿Quién ha matado?
Eres
quién-
parte.
No, soy un periodista que hace
No eres
preguntas.
periodista,
Y cuando
tú-
uno ve estos muertos... y
Mira, no eres periodista.
Lo acusan a usted de ser responsable de estos
No
muertos.
juegas juego limpio como periodista. Tú traes,
Contésteme lo que quiera, entonces.
si me dejas,
If you let me, yeah, no.
Sí me
traes
dejas.
afirmaciones, acusaciones. Si fueras venezolano, tendrías que enfrentarte con la justicia porque tú estás haciendo afirmaciones falsas de casos que
Yo
están
le estoy dando
juzgados.
datos de gente que fue
Tú
asesinada
estás haciendo,
por
mira,
gente ligada
no
a
tiene
su
ningún
gobierno.
sentido hacer una entrevista para una confrontación estéril. Yo creía que tú venías a preguntar de situaciones en pleno desarrollo en Venezuela. No que venías
Pero
de
quiero-
parte como militante opositor que era, hacerte parte de acusaciones
No,
muy
quiero-
sucias.
quiero
Son
llegar a
sucias
eso.
tus acusaciones. Son sucias, muy sucias tus
Quiero
acusaciones.
llegar a eso. En su país...
Es muy sucia. Tu entrevista ha tomado el camino de la suciedad, ¿eh? Y no quiere tomar el camino del equilibrio, del respeto. No estás en una
son
posición de
acusaciones
respeto.
muy concretas, como la presencia de presos políticos en su país.
En Venezuela las personas que están juzgadas es porque han cometido delitos. El primero de todos es Leopoldo López, que lo juzgó
No es un
la
prisionero
fiscal
político,
general.
Leopoldo
Bueno,
And by the way,
¿quién lo juzgó?
Lopez, you know, he's, according to Amnesty International, a prisoner of conscience. Julian Assange
Is not.
is not. Chelsea Manning is not.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's fucking shame.
And this is a guy who's been involved in numerous coup attempts and
so
violence.
popular.
Violent. In 2002, he bragged on national Venezuelan television about being involved in the kidnapping of a government minister.
And that was after participating in a violent coup.
After participating in a violent coup, again,
And there were reports that he was actually handing out weapons during the coup attempt.
these are things the United States would never accept from any individual politician. They would be lucky to make it to Guantanamo if they
And a
committed
quick
these
note
crimes.
about Lopez: he was in house arrest. He was still.
Yeah, he was
wasn't-
chilling with like
And-
Lillian Tentori and, you know, giving interviews and whatnot, and then reading Mein Kampf or whatever was on his bookshelf when the books fell
True,
off.
true story that after he fled. First, I mean, he ended up. It's a long story, but he ended up during the other failed coup attempt, right before May Day on April 30th, that he fled to the Chilean embassy, and then he fled. They kicked him out, and he fled to the Spanish embassy, the embassy of the country that colonized Venezuela. And he was only released because there was another failed coup attempt in which 25 soldiers released him. I mean, it's just like
And so his wife takes a picture of all the books that fell down, or maybe she knocked them down, or the arresting officers knocked them down, and she doesn't know what Mein Kampf is, and so it's in the picture that he had like a book by Hitler. Nietzsche. I mean, you know, that's pretty.
That's not
That's
incriminating.
pretty cool that he was reading Nietzsche. Maybe, you know,
But
a little goth streak
When you-
in
Nietzsche
Leopoldo
combined with
Lopez.
when you mix it with the Mein Kampf, it's pretty fascist. Is all I was gonna say.
all right, we'll keep going.
Una opositora rabiosa que hoy vive al amparo del gobierno de Colombia. La exfiscal Ortega Díaz lo acusó se dio todo el debido proceso, las apelaciones en todas las instancias y quedó firmemente juzgado por delitos graves contra la cosa pública que ningún país del mundo aceptaría.
Otros dirían que usted se encargó de ponerlo en una cárcel para que no pudiera quitarle el poder legítimamente.
Él nunca ha tenido ningún
Look
tipo
at
de
look at the
liderazgo
polls
que
on
pudiera-
Lopez. I mean, unpopular will currently controls only 17 seats in the National Assembly out of
It might actually be 14.
I think 14, 17 quibbles. It basically there are hundreds of seats in the National Assembly, and I think there are like 170 seats.
They're not even the leading opposition party in the Venezuelan parliament.
And Ramos doesn't know that because it didn't come on his like CIA script.
And Voluntad Popular was, of course, the party that was chosen by the U.S. and by allies like Canada, Britain. They were the ones who chose and cultivated these people like Juan Guaido. And
I mean, the whole point of them is to just refuse dialogue and keep destabilizing the country with protests and then say we have political prisoners and then go to Human Rights Watch and Amnesty and say, you know, write a 800-page report on all the bad things that have been done to us, and then we'll give them to Jorge Ramos for his script.
all right, we have 6 minutes left. Here we go.
amenazar el poder político de
El caso
Venezuela.
es que-
En todo caso, una persona que sale, ¿tú crees que un líder político tiene licencia abierta, licencia de corso que llaman, para por ser líder político de la oposición y apoyado por el gobierno de Estados Unidos a quemar, a matar, a llamar al derrocamiento de un gobierno, ¿no?
Él es un prisionero político para muchos. Aquí en su país hay 900...
You know, I don't remember Bill Clinton ever getting grilled like this about Waco.
And also, just what he said, he's considered a political prisoner by many. Well, a lot of people, Mumia Abu Jamal is also considered a political prisoner by a lot of people around the world, but you never would hear Jorge Ramos talking about the U.S. political prisoners.
I mean, I consider like hundreds of thousands of prisoners to be political prisoners. They're prisoners of policies made by
the
people
drug
like
war.
Joe Biden, which aimed to warehouse young black men until they were old because they were considered super predators. I mean, what is a political prisoner? It's a definition that we only apply externally. I mean, now here comes a really important part. Play this part.
89 presos políticos según Foro Penal.
Falso,
989.
falso. Primero que Foro Penal es una organización mantenida por fondos de la USAID.
Okay, stop it.
Funded by the U.S.
Okay, thanks to one of the greatest journalists somewhat alive who is possibly dying and faces 120 years in a U.S. court.
Julian Assange.
Yes. Okay, I have a document on WikiLeaks that was from the USAID OTI program. OTI stands for the Office of Transitional Initiatives. It's basically the regime change office of USAID, and it's outlining how to, quote unquote, strengthen democratic institutions. The strategic objective represents the majority of USAID OTI work in Venezuela. Venezuelan Prison Observatory, that is Foro Penal. And, you know, since the beginning of its work with OTI, they've taken one case successfully through the Inter-American system. In other words, they basically said, we have a political prisoner here, we're going to take it to the OAS, to the, IACD or whatever their human rights group is, and then get it affirmed in an international body. But that's their job. And, you know, basically what I'm saying is that what Maduro is saying, that this group was set up by the U.S. in order to create this issue of political prisoners through the OTI, which transitional initiatives, it's regime change. It's there for regime change. That is, what he's saying is true. I'm just doing a little fact check of Maduro. True.
And the reason we know that is because of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. And the reason that Julian Assange is facing nearly 200 years in prison on the Espionage Act is not because of anything he did in his personal life. It's not because of because he was a mean person or a jerk or whatever. It's because he published documents like that. That's the only reason he is so widely hated, and people who are
Absolutely.
believing these ridiculous smears about him are just playing into that.
Because every regime change operation from Syria to Venezuela has been informed by WikiLeaks, but so was the revolution in Tunisia, which was also flamed by lies which were exposed through WikiLeaks that the people there saw and knew was the truth the whole time, but because of WikiLeaks for the first time had the hard proof in front of them. On the issue of USAID and the Office of Transitional Initiatives. I'll talk more about this maybe later after I come out with a report that I've been working on, but interestingly enough, the Venezuela office of OTI was opened up by the college roommate of Carlos Vecchio when he was living in Washington, D.C. on Fulbright scholarship at Georgetown.
Who's Carlos Vecchio?
Carlos Vecchio currently serves as Juan Guaido's fake ambassador to the United States. And he was living when he came to study at Georgetown in the late 90s. He was staying with the man who would later also return to Venezuela and set up the OTI, this front group, the office through which they fund all opposition groups through USAID and the U.S. government. And it's maybe a coincidence that same year Carlos Vecchio started a group, was involved in founding a group funded by USAID.
All right, we'll keep going.
No hay prisioneros políticos.
Es una organización, te estoy diciendo quién es Foro Penal, porque tú traes algunos datos en unos papelitos que le sacaste fotocopia. Foro Penal es una organización totalmente desprestigiada, dirigida por una persona que fue delincuente.
980.
Delincuente.
¿Cuántos presos políticos
Para que
hay?
sepas quién es Foro Penal.
¿Cuántos presos políticos hay aquí, señor Maduro?
Hay políticos enjuiciados, un pequeño número, ¿no? Había gente detenida por los actos de violencia. Fíjate, en Venezuela se quemaron 29 personas vivas. 29 personas.
And there's video of some of that, and especially black Venezuelans. who were
Orlando
targeted.
Figuera, if you're watching this, just look up that name and you can actually see video of a Afro-Venezuelan person being burned alive in the area where Leopoldo Lopez was mayor, inflamed by popular will and the incitement campaign, where he was just seen as a Chavista on the street and they just doused him with gasoline and burned him alive. And he was one of many. You also had the Guaya, which is a tactic of wrapping wires across streets and people were decapitated. So here's what Maduro's talking about, and he's representing the experience of a lot of working people in Venezuela who had to deal with this shit.
Personas vivas en los actos de violencia que tú amparas como militante de la oposición en el periodo del año 2017. 29 personas fueron asesinadas por el color de piel, porque le parecían que era chavista, porque le parecía que era pobre.
Sí, pero la pregunta es ¿cuántos prisioneros políticos
See,
hay?
he doesn't even care. He doesn't care.
Let's move on.
He
Political
didn't have those numbers.
Ramos thinks it's all made up or something. It's like all
Or
imaginary.
he just doesn't care. He doesn't dispute
He
it.
just
It's
doesn't
true.
care.
Aquí.
En Venezuela no hay prisioneros por su pensamiento político. Por su
Claro.
That translation wasn't great. He's saying that there are no prisoners who are being imprisoned because of their ideology. And I mean, it's anyway.
ideología.
Yo traigo aquí una lista de más de 400 presos políticos. ¿La quiere?
Tus listas, tú y tus
No, no.
posiciones.
Hay más de
He just has a
400
list.
Mira,
I mean, what is
Comisión
the
por la
list?
verdad. No dejes nada que no me lo voy a llevar, ten la seguridad.
It
Tú te
reminds
llevas
me
tu
of Mitt
basurita,
Romney's
compadre.
binders full of women. or Kurt Eichenwald's binder of like Tucker insults or whatever it was that he had.
Yeah,
that
he's
he,
like,
did.
Tucker, I have a binder of bad things you said, but he never. This is the best. This is like a meme.
I have my list, Mr. Maduro, of the 400 people you personally ordered to be imprisoned for their entire lives.
But this is like the meme right here. This is like Maduro's just
there are more memes.
take your trash partner.
I want to hear.
Take your trash
I want to
partner.
hear what he's saying and how they're translating.
That's like the
this. Here we go.
hashtag, take your trash, Ramos.
All right, I want to hear the translation.
Mira, la Comisión
Le voy
por
a
la
dejar aquí la
verdad.
lista.
No dejes nada que no me lo voy a llevar, ten la seguridad. Tú te llevas tu basurita, compadre.
Camiones de basura.
Yeah, he said basura, compadre. Sí, yeah.
Son
Agarra
vidas
tu
humanas,
basurita,
son-
Jorge
Take your
Ramos.
trash, Jorge
Agarra tu
Ramos.
basurita,
Take your
compadre.
trash,
Basurita,
Jorge
compadre.
Ramos.
Mira, vienes a provocarme.
No,
Te
no,
vas
no,
a tragar
provocar.
tu provocación.
Esta es la realidad.
Te vas a tragar con una Coca-Cola tu
Son,
provocación.
son todos los nombres de prisioneros políticos.
En Venezuela hay un régimen de derecho. Hemos sido víctimas de ataques violentos en varios periodos. En el año 2013, en el año 2014, en el año 2017, en el año 2018 yo mismo fui víctima de un atentado. Y
Multiple
ante todos esos
assassination attempts.
atentados y todos esos procesos de violencia ha actuado la justicia venezolana, la Comisión de
Quick note. So we have at least 3 documented opposition assassination attempts on Maduro. One of them, a recent assassination attempt last year, was a drone attack. And U.S. corporate media outlets and the Guardian newspaper, Think Progress and the reporter
yeah.
Casey Michelle all implied
That's
that
not
it
a
was.
reporter.
Well, exactly. All implied that it was a false flag
flag.
attack
It can't
carried
be
out.
real.
And then CNN earlier this year published a report admitting, yeah, the opposition planned this assassination attack, and they were in contact with the U.S. government.
They were interviewing people who were bragging about participating in it.
based in
Yeah.
Colombia.
Jaime Bailey, who's this big right-wing Latin American it's kind of like he's an author, but he's a very popular TV host. He said, I had contact with elements in Miami that told me this plot was coming to kill Maduro at a military parade with drones strapped with explosives. I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of pressure that's been put on this government. And, you know,
And yet they still sit down with Jorge Ramos.
I think of Tommy Franks' comments after 9/11, one more attack like that, and it will be the end of democracy. That's the head of U.S. Central Command until, you know. Anyway, he's talking about the Peace and Justice Commission after mentioning in passing assassination
Justicia
attempts
y
on
Paz de la
himself.
Asamblea Nacional Constituyente, que dejaron un grupo muy pequeño, de los más peligrosos, inclusive hubo gente que estuvo metido en delitos de violencia en ciudades importantes como Mérida, Caracas, que fueron enviados a sus casas también. Nosotros hemos enfrentado una situación de subversión permanente, alentado por los gobiernos de Estados Unidos.
¿Eso lo justifica? ¿Justifica esto? ¿Justifica la tortura,
Bueno,
por
sí.
ejemplo?
¿Justifica qué?
La tortura.
Tú eres una persona temeraria, ¿vale? Para lanzar acusaciones.
Bueno, a ver, Human Rights
I
Watch
mean, he
asegura que
just
tiene
transitions.
Human Rights Watch, funded largely by one of the richest men in the world, a billionaire.
Let's watch this
oligarch.
part and then we'll comment on
documentados
it.
380 casos de abusos inhumanos, incluyendo la tortura, en su país.
Human Rights Watch es una organización que desde hace mucho tiempo ha servido, yo te digo, ¿quién lo financia? Dime quién te da la plata y te diré quién te pone la música para que
Es una de
baile.
las instituciones más reconocidas.
Reconocida por
internacionalmente.
ustedes, por la derecha internacional. No es una institución, le ponen un nombre, Human Rights Watch, lo financia la USAID y se ha venido secando, ha venido desprestigiándose, porque es una organización totalmente parcializada, como eres tú,
Especially in
Jorge
Latin
Ramos,
America.
totalmente
Like you,
parcializada,
Jorge Ramos,
contrarrevolucionaria.
totally biased
Que hace
against revolution.
preguntas, le ha preguntado sobre prisioneros políticos, sobre tortura y
I mean,
no
just
quiere
look at Ken
contestar.
Roth, like celebrating Russians who die in an airplane crash. That's the head of Human Rights Watch, Regime Change Roth. I mean, you talk about the human rights industrial complex being an agent, an arm of regime change. Ken Roth doesn't even try to hide it.
Ken Roth, who strongly supported and wrote an article in Foreign Policy endorsing the international intervention in Libya that led to the destruction of the Libyan state and the restoration of slave markets in Libya.
And during the Guarimbas in 2017, Human Rights Watch fundraised off it with a campaign calling for regime change in Venezuela. I mean, they straight up fundraise off of regime change.
Almost saying nothing. We wrote an article at the Gray Zone, and they did not release a statement about the stolen election in Honduras and the murder, the right-wing coup regime's murder of protesters until we contacted them, and then they released a statement. And in addition to that, Human Rights Watch refused to oppose the Iraq War because they don't take political positions, and they have refused to call for an end to the war on Yemen. So they are essentially, they are a fig leaf for the U.S. State Department.
No human rights at stake with the war in Yemen or the war in Iraq, Ben.
No, what they say is, well, we will document the human rights atrocities, but we won't call for an end to those
Yeah,
atrocities.
in fact, we'll make a lot of money doing that.
A lot of money.
Es una posición tomada de provocador profesional que eres.
Yo lo que traigo es...
Lo haces muy bien, te felicito.
Son unos datos que usted no quiere escuchar.
Yo te felicito porque tú eres un provocador profesional.
Déjeme-
Pero a mí no
déjeme-
me vas a sacar de los casillas.
déjeme
Yo estoy muy
preguntarle-
seguro de lo que es mi país, lo que es nuestra lucha, nuestra patria, que amamos profundamente. Nosotros sí vivimos aquí, Jorge Ramos, y amamos este país y lo vamos a defender, Jorge Ramos. Lo
Hablemos
vamos
de
a
la-
defender a cualquier instancia que tengamos que defenderlo.
Hablemos entonces de la
And he's
crisis
talking to
humanitaria que está
Ramos
viviendo.
as a representative of the opposition there and
And
showing
the U.S. government and the right-wing Venezuelan thugs that live in the United States. I mean, he was speaking directly to them, and, well, I think...
I mean, Ramos has openly admitted to me that he was a representative of those elements, and so Maduro knows exactly who he's talking to, and clearly they didn't destroy this footage, and it's out there for some reason.
Actualmente su país. ¿Por qué se han ido
So now he just changes the topics to the so-called humanitarian crisis.
3.400.000 venezolanos? ¿Cómo explica el millón de inflación al año? ¿Cómo explica que hay tanta gente que ha muerto en sus hospitales y que no tiene que comer y que está comiendo de los camiones de basura, como me
people
tocó.
being shot by the police, this is all because of Maduro's personal decision. He just wants people to be dying in hospitals and starving to death.
Well, there's so much. It's just the propaganda. We could spend an hour talking
I mean,
about
it's
this.
what we
but-
spend all the time, but these are the standard talking
But a few quick points on this. It's just such a blatant lie that there's no food in Venezuela. There's a lot of food, and the government is providing it to people basically for free. And the Trump administration is now trying to sanction the free food program, CLAP, that is subsidizing for almost free food for almost over 7 million families in Venezuela, over 70% of the population. And in addition to that, so he has this ridiculous talking point about eating from the garbage trucks. There is actually quite a bit of evidence that suggests that that video was probably staged,
I
including...
mean, just look at the dude. I mean, we can show the clip right now.
Cuéntame, ¿tienen que sacar la comida de la basura?
Y tenemos hambre, Maduro ahora lo saca en esta mierda. Hay que cambiar el presidente, jefe, porque no podemos vivir así.
Just look at the dude. It doesn't look like a regular
But
guy
there
on the
was video
street.
of them walking around with food right afterwards.
Well, and also, I didn't see anyone eating from
Yeah,
garbage. That is
we were,
so
we-
ridiculous.
We were there for 3 weeks, a month, pretty
month.
much. We
You're
were
there
there
for
for
over 4
February,
weeks, yeah.
And I never once saw anything on that level, whereas I could spend 3 days, 3 hours in any major U.S. city and witness what Jorge Ramos was singling out as some like huge demonstration of desperation in Venezuela. I honestly didn't see it, and I was willing to see it. We went in all different kinds of neighborhoods, different classes, different geographic locations, and I never once saw anything on that level. I never even saw anyone begging.
I mean, there are some homeless people, but there are way more homeless people here in D.C. or in New York City. When I was in, of course, there are some homeless people in Venezuela, but not that many.
I mean, we were downtown in D.C. today. I mean, and you just see
Yeah.
rows and rows that I actually, growing up here, it wasn't like that. D.C. now has, I think, the highest homeless population per capita. And the point is, and Maduro's about to make this point, Jorge Ramos doesn't put this issue to any U.S. leader. And it's actually something that is never discussed in the U.S. Homelessness isn't part of our political discourse anymore.
And it's a pandemic.
No, none of the rights that we look at foreign countries and say, oh, these are the measures of a dictatorship or happiness. We never apply those standards to our people who don't have access to education, healthcare, food. Children are living in poverty. Millions of children are living in poverty and going without multiple meals a day in this country. If that was happening in Venezuela, it's a statistic that would be used to justify the invasion of the country and the overthrow of the government. Yet those same standards are never applied to the United States. And the U.S. president is never individually blamed for anything from a police killing to the fact that people are starving. People are starving and digging out of the trash here. Jorge Ramos and Trump and Rubio and none of them are ever speaking about giving those people humanitarian aid.
De basura, como me tocó verlo ayer.
Siguen con su guión. No quieren ver la viga que tienen en el ojo ustedes en Estados Unidos. Los 40 millones de pobres que hay en Estados Unidos que sí necesitan ayuda
Hablemos de
humanitaria.
los pobres en Venezuela.
No.
Los
don't
migrantes
talk about the US,
estadounidenses
no.
que por miles, los migrantes hondureños, colombianos, mexicanos, que por miles son perseguidos en la calle como que fueran animales.
Yes.
No quieren ver
Ramos
los
never
miles
speaks
que
for
son
them.
deportados
Yo soy
todos
un
los días. No
inmigrante en
quieren
Estados
ver,
Unidos y lo conozco.
no quieren ver la viga en el ojo ajeno. No quieren ver su propia.
I mean, he's saying that, but he's saying you all don't want, he's saying specifically, no quieren ver. You all do not want to see it.
Yeah, you don't want to. You ignore it as a political issue.
Viga. La situación en la ciudad de Los Ángeles, Nueva York, de gente tirada en las calles que se congela en los tiempos de la nevada. No quieren ver su realidad, solamente quiere ver el guión, el show que está montado sobre Venezuela, justificar una escalada de intervención. Traten de ver su realidad, Jorge Ramos. Trata de ver tus 40 millones de pobres en Estados Unidos. Trata de defender a los latinoamericanos allá.
Yo es exactamente lo que hago. Yo soy un inmigrante allá, pero aquí estamos hablando de
Oh
la
yeah,
crisis
you're
que
just
está
a
viviendo su
regular
país.
immigrant, Jorge. You're really up against it, man.
Sí, señor Maduro.
Bueno,
no me va a decir que eso no es cierto, que
tú
hay,
sumas
hay
un
gente
conjunto-
comiendo de la basura. Me tocó verlo.
Yo lo vi en Nueva York y lo vi en Miami.
Yo lo acabo de
dude,
ver
Tú lo
ayer.
sacas en
Stop
Nueva York
it
y
here.
Miami.
Maduro's saying it.
Stop it here. I mean, this is like a point that like basically Ramos is saying because people are eating from the trash in Venezuela, and we can't deny there's economic desperation in
Absolutely.
Venezuela.
He never mentions the
We can talk
sanctions.
about the context of it and sanctions and everything, but there is economic desperation. I've been all around Latin America. There's economic desperation everywhere I
country.
went. But what Jorge Ramos is saying is that there needs to be an intervention and regime change because people are eating from the trash. Okay, so there has to be regime change in Washington, in New York,
Mexico,
Gary, Indiana,
Colombia,
Mexico, everywhere.
Brazil, Honduras.
Just because people are poor.
That's what kind of what Maduro.
That's the logic. So Maduro's saying that anyway.
En Nueva York y en Miami.
Lo acabo de ver hace solo unos días.
Lo que yo te digo, en Venezuela somos 30 millones de venezolanos. Y todas las cifras de protección social, igualdad social, seguridad social que hay sobre el sistema venezolano a nivel internacional reconocido, es que, bueno, tenemos un nivel altísimo de inversión.
Su
Tenemos
revolución ha fracasado terriblemente.
Look at that comment.
What?
The revolution has failed terribly.
What does that even mean?
I mean, just the
Like
fact
Ma-
that he's saying that.
Like Maduro said early on, Jorge Ramos is just an agent against the revolution. And look how at the very end he just openly says it. I mean, no other journalist. I would never get away with saying that to a Trump administration official.
No, and Maduro has welcomed way more journalists than a standard U.S. or Western leader in this period of turmoil. In AP,
siege warfare in his country.
AP interviewed him. All the wires have interviewed him, and none of them talk to him like that. And they're very negative towards him and very critical. But what Ramos is doing is another level, and yet he's expected to be treated as just a regular journalist, as if these are standard questions. And what he's doing is he's emulating the way the U.S. corporate media behaves. And this is why people across the world, but especially in the U.S. now, hate and distrust, but especially hate. They hate the media. And, go to the YouTube video of this, of the translation, the one with the English subtitles or the Spanish one, and read the comments. And you're going to see comment after comment of people in Spanish who do not like Maduro, but who hate Ramos more because of his line of questioning and his style of questioning, and just his lack of elegance. Because there might have been a way to frame Maduro as the bad guy, but this really wasn't it. It just shows Ramos to be completely devoid of skill.
Bueno, esa es tu visión de derechas de Estados Unidos porque no vives en Venezuela y no sabes el nivel de protección y seguridad social que tiene el pueblo para vivienda, para pensiones, para empleo, para ingresos, educación pública, gratuita, de calidad al 80% de los venezolanos.
A ver,
In fact, the United Nations, the most impartial observer we can get, has in the past praised, especially before the intense U.S. economic war began, really around 2014. Before that, when Chavez was still alive, the United Nations praised Venezuela for its significant breakthroughs in fighting child poverty, in fighting homelessness, in fighting hunger, in fighting illiteracy, in fighting homelessness and all of these problems. The United Nations praised it. So according to Jorge Ramos, the revolution failed. Well, according to many United Nations metrics, actually it was very successful.
Let me just make one point. This month, the UN recognized Venezuela for gains in housing, record gains in providing housing to millions of people who previously didn't have it for free or at low cost.
There's an article put out by the Center for Economic and Policy Research, I believe in 2015 or 2016, which was just graphs representing different social and economic measures from the early 90s until that year, which would have been a few years after 2010. And by every measure, life under the revolution improved for the vast majority of people. We're talking about infant mortality, child hunger rates, child poverty rates, poverty, extreme poverty, access to higher education. Inflation, in fact, drastically reduced under the first 13 years of the Bolivarian Revolution, drastically reduced. So all of these oppositionists who say, oh, inflation is something they now magically care about, if it had been the neoliberal regime in power previous to Chavez, overseeing not such quite drastic numbers because they weren't under assault by the United States the same way the current government is, they wouldn't care. Inflation existed in the 90s at very high levels, but the plight of the average Venezuelan wasn't even something that the establishment politicians were even pretending to consider. Now they do, and they point, and they say, inflation, all of these issues, but they still, if you look at the numbers and you're looking at who has access to who's included in society, who has access to social programs, to education, basic things that we don't get anywhere close to providing our people in the United States, life has still improved under the revolution, even still under this assault. What we witnessed in Caracas in those few weeks we were there, people getting government subsidized food, it's beyond what we receive here. So what does that tell us?
A ver,
Un médico de familia.
le puedo enseñar el
Tenemos
video
tres
que-
médicos de familia.
déjame enseñarle el video de lo que yo vi ayer.
Esta entrevista, te digo, no tiene ningún sentido ni para ti ni para mí. ¿Oíste? Yo creo que es mejor suspenderla.
He's slowly pulling out an
Te agradezco
iPad
todo.
to show some
Hasta luego.
ridiculous
Gente,
video.
No tiene ningún sentido. Esta
And
entrevista ni
Maduro
para
just
ti.
walks out with complete contempt. And I mean, just play that one more time.
But what he said is right. He was like, is this interview making sense for you? Because it's not making any
Yeah.
sense for me. Like, I might as well just leave. You're not responding
And you know,
to anything. I
conveniently
say."
for Ramos, for whatever reason, the video he never had to show it when he came back, on his triumphant hero's welcome at the airport
go,
of
Mike.
Miami.
Esta, te
He
digo,
pulls out his
No
iPad.
tiene ningún sentido ni para ti ni para
look
mí.
at his face, he's
¿Oíste?
just like
Yo creo que es
befuddled.
mejor suspenderla. ¿Oíste? Te agradezco todo. Hasta luego.
Gente,
No tiene
And he
ningún
thanks him.
sentido esta entrevista ni para
But the
ti.
interview didn't make sense. I mean, it was a waste of Maduro's time. He was legitimately attempting to engage with Ramos. And then Ramos would just move the goalposts and be like, but what about this report from a U.S. government-funded organization that says that you're assassinating hundreds of people every year? Like, that was his only strategy.
Also, what kind of bloodthirsty dictator would sit through that for 17 minutes and then politely say, this is a waste of my time. You're obviously not serious. You're not interested. See ya. Thank you. He thanked him and walked away.
And somehow
He's a
the
dictator?
video footage survives. Somehow the video footage survives. I happen to believe... I mean, as someone who worked in network news for 5 years, someone who was a host and conducted many interviews, if I were Jorge Ramos and I had been in his shoes interviewing Maduro in that instance, I would never want that interview to see the light of day, because I professionally would look absolutely pathetic. Not only did the subject have an answer for every supposed challenge that that Jorge Ramos lobbed at him, but he personally attacked Ramos for being an activist of the opposition and for behaving in a totally disrespectful manner. I mean, he got completely exposed and owned. If I were Ramos, I wouldn't want that interview to come out. Ever.
Yeah, I mean, just as an interview, first of all, it's important to recognize that Maduro had an open door to the Western media, and we didn't get an interview with him. But AFP, AP, Reuters, whoever, CNN, all of them, they got interviews with him, but none of it was like Jorge Ramos, who thinks he's like this celebrity who's representing, Marco Rubio's constituents. And, he just really reflects the unprofessionalism and crudeness and trashiness of corporate
Take
media.
your trash, Jorge Ramos. Take your trash, Jorge
I got this part
Ramos.
up. This
It's
is
just-
the meme right here.
It's very
Take your trash partner.
It's very U.S. American what he's doing. It's just the trashiness of American corporate media, and it's directed against Trump right now. But if somehow Bernie gets into power, you're going to see it directed against him, and you're going to have all kinds of lefties saying exactly what we're saying and what Donald Trump has been saying, which is that corporate media is an enemy of the people. I mean, I don't see how you can deny that, but Ramos...
Here's the clip again.
Mira, la Comisión por la Verdad. No dejes nada que no me lo voy a llevar, ten la seguridad. Tú te llevas tu basurita, compadre.
No es basura, son
Agarra
vidas
tu
humanas,
basurita, Jorge
prisioneros-
Ramos.
son
Take
prisioneros.
your trash, Jorge
Te
Ramos.
llevas tu basura, compañero.
That would be a really good hashtag. Take your trash, Jorge Ramos. And again, I mean, I asked Jorge Ramos, will you pose these tough questions to Marco Rubio? And he refused to answer that question and looked like a deer in the headlights because he knows what his job is. And he is in the United...
He knows who his masters are.
Yeah, sure. And he's in the United States to perform a specific role. And
And if he didn't do it, he would be fired. or he wouldn't be given the huge platform he has.
Totally pathetic. I mean, imagine allowing yourself to be that person. As a journalist, someone parading. This is the thing. While I was in the embassy trying to ask Carlos Vecchio like legitimate questions, I would say like, who's your foreign minister, or how are you going to provide visas to people after you take over this embassy, Carlos? And by doing that, members of the opposition would claim that I was an activist of the government. Meanwhile, Jorge Ramos just gets to straight up be like, your revolution is a failure, and here are all these U.S. government reports. That is way more opposition. That's way more activist than anything that I think I've ever done or even would do if I was talking to any of these people.
Wait, so Carlos Vecchio is, again, the fake ambassador that the U.S. has essentially installed here to replace the diplomatic functions of the elected Venezuelan government. Has any U.S. journalist asked one tough question of Carlos Vecchio?
No, and no, they haven't.
And okay, what about Elliot Abrams?
No. They did. Fareed Zakaria did ask him. He was like, nothing happened on the day of the coup. Like, you guys failed. Like, what's going on? And Carlos Vecchio was like,
only when the coup
we didn't
failed.
expect it
In
to
the lead up to the
fail."
coup, they all helped set the ground for the coup, and then when it failed, they were like, oh, well.
Yeah, and Vecchio.
Because they want a new opposition leader.
And Vecchio was just saying like, oh, we didn't expect it to all happen in one day, but
Yeah, he said that, but they kept saying, first it was February 23rd, and then it was going to be
April 30th.
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
coup attempt. No, and I mean, no one's asked Vecchio any difficult question. And the day, by the way, the same freaking right-wing tool journalist Carla Angola, who called me an activist of the government for like asking Vecchio a question. The day that people on the inside of the Embassy Protection Collective had the electricity shut off, she actually celebrated it. And she was like, this is all thanks to Carlos Vecchio. Hooray, like, great job. Okay, somehow that is not activism. Somehow that is not being totally in bed with Vecchio. But when I ask Vecchio, like, please, give me the answer to the question. I'm not even attacking you. Just please, give me the basic response. Who is your foreign minister? How are you claiming that you're an ambassador? Please explain it to me. I would like to know.
Well, you also, filed a formal request that Carlos Vecchio received asking for an interview. And is that right?
Yes, it is. I don't think it's going to happen.
And so basically Vecchio hasn't submitted himself. Let's just say you're an activist of the government. Let's just say.
Well, say I'm the Jorge Ramos equivalent. Like,
right. Let's say that.
Let me behave. I wouldn't even stoop to his level.
Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro have subjected themselves to this questioning, and the way it was framed in U.S. media was that Maduro basically detained them, held them hostage, and threatened to kill them. And this video in the interview was never going to come out because it was so embarrassing for Maduro. But you just watch the video.
And you realize it's actually not so embarrassing for Maduro. In fact, Maduro looks pretty good, and it's embarrassing for Jorge Ramos and Univision.
Which suggests that we should be very skeptical of the whole narrative in the first place, that they were detained and their phones were taken from them and all this stuff.
Yeah, and Ramos claims that Maduro walked out the moment he called him a dictator.
That was literally the first second. The first thing he says is you're a dictator.
Wait, Ben, maybe we could cut it here, but can you read the actual statement Univision gave on how they got the interview?
Yeah, let me find
And then we should wrap it up.
All right, so here's the New York Times article, obviously titled Jorge Ramos, Univision anchor, said he was detained by Venezuelan government. Of course, the New York Times entirely takes his side. They say Jorge Ramos, a news anchor, said he was detained by the Venezuelan government during a confrontational interview with Nicolas Maduro. And then right here, Ramos, he posted a video. He said in a broadcast, he didn't like what we were asking about the lack of democracy, the torture. He said he was detained for more than 2 hours before he was let go and returned to his hotel. The government confiscated his crew's equipment, including their phones, memory cards. We don't have anything. They have the interviews.
And then the State Department calls for Ramos's release, where he basically sat in a green room.
Said that he had been detained and called on the government to release him. The world is watching, the U.S. State Department official wrote. And then it says Venezuela's government did not dispute the account. They later did.
But let's get their explanation for how they got the interview. It's just it's bizarre.
We had to wait like an hour before we showed up. We had to wait like an hour to interview the foreign minister. Could we technically say that we were detained by the Venezuelan government and forced to wait in like a waiting room for all of that time?
Okay, so now here's the Univision article. This is the headline they chose. You're going to choke on your provocation with Coca-Cola, quote from Maduro. Univision retrieves
That is a good
complete
quote.
copy of Jorge Ramos's interview.
But they're trying to
with
make it
Maduro.
seem like he's threatening to kill Jorge Ramos with a Coca-Cola bomb or something. You know.
This tense 17-minute interview.
I mean, it wasn't that tense, honestly. It was just basically Maduro dunking on Ramos.
That was only one of a half a dozen threats and insults that Maduro launched against Ramos in response to his questions.
Threats, yeah. Where were the threats?
There were no threats. And you know what? The insults were completely valid. Ramos began the interview by insulting Maduro. Like, he behaved in a way that I and no other colleague would ever be given the opportunity to or be allowed to behave with the head of state.
All right, and then here's the greatest propaganda of all. This is Caracas Chronicles.
Which is U.S.-based, a
Absolutely.
U.S.-based publication of the
The
opposition.
mystery of the leaked Ramos Maduro interview. Ooh. And it says right here, after his staff was expelled from Venezuela following hours of detention, including confiscation of their equipment, it was expected that the interview would remain forever unseen. Only details about what happened would... All right, how wrong we were. Univision surprisingly announced they recovered the entire footage airing. They also offered details about what Ramos and his team went through. How did Univision get the interview? The head of the channel's news division, a Colombian journalist, said he was contacted by a Venezuelan source who told him about the existence of the material. The data passed through 4 different countries.
What?
No.
What? Before it reached the offices of Univision Miami. What?
How is that? How is that possible? It was like slipped into the socks of Caesar. Is this like the Caesar photos? Like, what is this shit?
If the Venezuelan government is the dictatorship which they're claiming it is, and it seized the interview, I don't believe a copy would have lasted, first of all.
They would have
And
deleted it.
They would have, it would have ceased to exist. And second of all, if I were Maduro, I actually would want that interview to come out.
Well, exactly. And who knows who leaked it? It could have been the government. And now
What
here's-
if they didn't leak it and Univision just had it and waited until no one would pay attention?
Well,
I mean,
these are all possible explanations. But wait, it gets worse. It gets worse. Okay, so the head of Univision's news division, this Colombian journalist, said, I don't really know the origin of this. I'm dealing with confidential sources in a chain of brokers. It's like they're talking about that WMD fake intelligence. Like we have a confidential chain of brokers and we can't disclose them or they're going to be killed.
and my feeling is just that if the government or anyone close to the government were going to leak it, they wouldn't go to Univision to release the footage.
All right, and then finally, this is just the cherry on top. He also says the Maduro government launched a counterintelligence operation looking for the traitor who delivered the leak.
No.
What?
No.
All right, you all just watched the interview with us. Do you truly believe that Maduro, after sitting so coolly for 17 minutes and laughing at Jorge Ramos, he actually was so mad that this was released that he launched a counterintelligence operation
I would
fighting the
want it
traitor?
to be released.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so it wasn't destroyed, and that really is telling. But one point I would make is that Univision is shady. Okay, in 2016, Univision had the story on Narco Rubio and his brother-in-law, Orlando Sicilia, who was a cocaine cowboy in Miami in the 1980s, who was running out of West Kendall and the Miami suburbs a front operation, which was a house filled with all kinds of animals for a cocaine dealing operation that was exporting cocaine or importing cocaine, and he was making tons of money. He had married Marco Rubio's sister. Marco Rubio was an adolescent working in that house at the time, which was a front for a major cocaine operation. Orlando Sicilia was sentenced to decades in prison for that. He was released after 12 or 13 years, a few weeks before Rubio was elected to Congress. And Univision, when Rubio was running in a very tight re-election race for the Senate in 2016, got this story and they told Rubio, we're going to drop this unless you give us an exclusive sit down. And Rubio was furious and he refused to give an exclusive sit down. But Univision was willing to negotiate for access to Rubio, this important information, and it ultimately really came out through the Miami New Times, which is the closest thing to an independent publication in Miami. That's why Marco Rubio is often referred to as Narco Rubio. And he said, I knew nothing about that whole deal. But, you know, Marco Rubio also said that my family fled Fidel Castro when they fled in 1958.
They fled before the revolution.
All I'm going to say just in closing is like why I thought, if you're still insane enough to be watching this, why I thought it was so important for us to show this and to talk about this interview is because it's just one more deception in a regime change operation that really exposes a journalist who has volunteered themselves as essentially an actor in that regime change operation, and exposes him and everything he said to be the complete opposite of what he's presented it as. And we've just seen this again and again and again. And I think a lot of people who speak English, a lot of our listeners aren't able, like, you would have no way of knowing this took place. I was actually shocked when I put on the interview and when I watched it and I realized it was the complete exact opposite of what we were told it was. And that, again, the footage was not destroyed, but Jorge Ramos was.
The other thing, coming from the perspective of a reporter who would be walking into a hostile interview, if I or one of my producers failed to record the interview in some way, at least audio.
You'd be fired.
Yeah, I would be fired, but also I would think I was an idiot. Like if I went into an interview, for example, with Trump or someone like that personally, and I didn't record.
I've produced for you before, and I would have to record everything. I'd have to
as backup. So for me, the story just doesn't fly that the Maduro government confiscated the equipment and Univision had no way of releasing any part of it until now. Even, no way. I mean, if that happens to you and you don't have the backup, you failed. And I think I will give the Univision team credit. They're probably more professional than that.
They're probably much more professional than Jorge Ramos. So, as President Nicolás Maduro said, te llevas tu basurito, compadre.
Take your trash.
Take your trash, Jorge
Take
Ramos.
your trash, compadre. I hope to use that line in my daily life, maybe soon.